Hello, in this video we want to solve this question. The demand for labor of an industry is given by the curve L equals to 1200 minus 10W, where L is the labor demanded per day and W is the wage rate. The labor supply curve is given by L equals to 20W. Find the equilibrium wage, the number of labor hired and economic rent earned by the workers. This is a question from microeconomics chapter perfect competition in input market. Now labor demand is given, labor demand L equals to 1200 minus 10W. Labor supply curve is given as L equals to 20W. Now in equilibrium, labor demand equals to labor supply. We know the definition of equilibrium of any perfectly competitive market is demand equals to supply. It is in the labor market, therefore labor demand equals to labor supply. Therefore, we write 1200 minus 10W equals to 20W, or 1200 minus equals to, we take 10W in the right hand side, that is 10W plus 20W, or 1200 equals to 30W. Therefore, W equals to 1200 by 30. Then this is 40. W equals to 40, or wage rate equals to 40 units. We have to write units because wage is a nominal wage. This is. Now we have to calculate labor hired, number of labor hired. What we have to do? Now we put the value of W in either labor demand curve or in the labor supply curve. I am putting the value of W in the labor supply curve. Labor hired, we make it L star equals to 20 into 40. This is 800. That is, number of labor hired is 800. Now we have done equilibrium wage rate and number of labor hired. This is the equilibrium wage rate. Therefore, answer equilibrium wage rate is 40 units, and at equilibrium 800 units of labor are hired. 800 units of labor are hired. Now we have to calculate economic rate. I am writing W equals to 40 units and L equals to 800 units. Now we have to calculate the economic rate. What is the economic rate? Economic rate is the difference between the actual payment. It is the difference between the actual payment to a factor of production and the maximum amount that the factor is willing to accept. Economic rent is the difference between the actual payment to a factor of production. Actual payment is what? Actual payment is 40 units. Wage is the actual payment to a factor of production. Factor of production here is labor. the difference between the actual payment to the factor of production and the minimum amount minimum amount that the factor is willing to accept, minimum amount that the factor is willing to accept. That is, now we draw the graph. Here we measure wage W and here labor. The labor supply curve is L equals to 20W. When W equals to 0, L equals to 0. That means it passes through origin. Now this is the equation of a straight line passing through origin. This is L equals to 20W. And what is the labor demand curve? Labor demand curve is 1200 minus 10W. When L equals to 0, then W equals to 1200 by 10. This is 120. This is the vertical intercept. And L equals to 1200 minus 10W. When W equals to 0, L equals to 1200. This is the horizontal intercept and the curve is downward sloping. Now this is the curve. This is L equals to 1200 minus 10W. This is our labor supply curve. This is our labor demand curve. This is the equilibrium point. E is the equilibrium point and equilibrium wage is 40 and employment is 800. Now what is the economic rent? Economic rent is this portion. Economic rent is this portion, OAE. OAE, that area of the triangle OAE is the economic rent. The area of the triangle is the economic rent. Difference between economic rent is the difference between the actual payment to the factor of production, that is the 40, and the minimum amount that the factor is willing to accept. The factor is willing to accept means we are getting the minimum amount that the factor is willing to accept from the labor supply curve, and this area of this triangle, that is OAE, is the economic rent. Economic rent is the area of the triangle AEO. Now AEO is a right angle triangle. AEO is right angle triangle. Right angle triangle. Therefore area of AEO is half base into height. What is the base? Base is AO. What is the length? AO? AO is 40. AO is 40. Therefore this is 40. And what is the height? Height is AE. AE is basically 800. This is 400. Therefore 16103. This is the 16,000 is the economic rent. Hence, economic rent is 16,000 units. This is the answer of economic rent earned by workers. Economic rent earned by workers is, this is 16,000. 16,000 units. This is the answer of the third part of the question. The equilibrium wage is 40 units. The equilibrium number of labor hired is 800 units and the economic rent earned by the workers is 16,000. I hope everybody understood the solution of this question. That's it for this video. Thank you.